Today is Tuesday, January 21, 2025, and the time is 10:17 a.m. A quorum is present, and the General Counsel will record each committee member who is in attendance. And I don't think we have any speakers. Are we going into executive session right away, or? Okay. I'm trying to read my notes here.
Something else is all in here.
An action item on the committee minutes.
Yeah. Here you go, it's right here.
All right.
Right here, right here.
Okay.
Approve the minutes, starting right here, Tom.
All right. We need to approve the minutes of the last meeting. And is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Second? All right. Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, today I think our discussion is basin conditions update. Is that going to be Kelly?
Yes, sir. Good morning, Chair Martine, board members that made it and those that are warm at home. We're going to walk through a basin conditions update. I don't see any slides, so I'm going to, there they come. Hang on. Okay. So as we do every month, we're going to start with a look at the U.S. Drought Monitor. So this is a comparison of last Thursday's drought monitor and the same corresponding one from last year, 2024. Last year, we were at 59% of the state was in some level of abnormally dry or drought. And this last week, about 53% of the state was in some level of abnormally dry or drought. And so pretty similar over the comparison to last year, with the exception being that while the drought coverage across the state is similar, D3, which is our extreme drought, and D4, which is exceptional, is about 10% higher across the state this year as composed to, or last week as opposed to last year. And as you can see, a lot of that is out in the El Paso area. Next slide is a close-up of our basin. And our basin drought monitor still shows that the basin, most of the basin is in some level of drought or dry. There's less than 10% with no drought, and that's up in the far upper Pecan Bayou Basin. And since we last talked about this in December, the shift has really been between abnormally dry and moderate drought into that severe drought, which is the orange color that's a big swath there over the central part of our basin. Inflows in December were 8,711 acre-feet, or about 13.5% of the long-term average. December was the fourth consecutive month of drier and warmer than normal conditions across our basin. December's rains totaled between 1 and 2 inches below normal at most locations. Inflow for the year was 576,160 acre-feet, or about 49.5% of the long-term average annual inflow. And that's about twice as much inflow as we got last year. So it was not the greatest, but an improvement over what we saw in 23. The next slide shows the median inflows, and December's inflow was about a quarter of the long-term median inflow of 33,112 acre-feet for December. This compares the combined storages of Lake Travis and Buchanan during the drought we're in now and the drought of record from 2008 to 2015. As you can see here on the notated on the graph, we're about 281,641 acre-feet more in combined storage this year than we were in the drought of record. So we're still running a little more water than we saw during the drought of record. Now let's look at combined storage projections. I got a lot of information to cover here. As of January 1st, our combined storage was 1,045,045 acre feet, or about 52% full. And as of this morning, we had dropped to 1,028,581 acre feet. Let's talk a little bit about interruptible water. March 1st in 2025 will be our next date as per the water management plan to determine whether or not interruptible stored water will be available for Gulf Coast, Lakeside, and Pierce Ranch. In order to get even a curtailed amount of water, our storage needs to be above 1.3 million acre feet. And according to our projections, there's a less than 5% chance of that occurring. When we went down and talked, those projections haven't changed a whole lot since December, when we went down and met with the farmers, and we have made them aware of this, we're probably going to have another year of curtailment in those three divisions. And so that won't be a big surprise to them. Garwood has a little bit different agreement than those three irrigation divisions. Their interruptible stored water is determined based on the guidelines in the 1999 Water Management Plan as per the contract with them. And as per those guidelines, they will be limited to 18,100 acre feet of interruptible stored water in the 2025 growing season. They'll still have access to 100,000 acre feet, but only 18,100 in interruptible stored water. The rest will have to come from flow in the river. And just as a reminder, last year they used a little over 500 acre feet of interruptible stored water. Oh, let's go back. I'm not through. Let's talk about firm water. So if the stored water to most interruptible customers is cut off, and as I just told you, it probably will be, it's very possible that LCRA in March will enter into stage 2 of our DCP, or Drought Contingency Plan, which would require firm customers to take action, including limiting landscape watering to no more than once a week. We would move to stage 2 if the combined storage of the lakes Buchanan and Travis is below 900,000 acre feet, which probably isn't going to be the case, or if on March 1st, the storage is below 1.1 million acre feet and December, January, and February inflows to the Highland Lakes are less than the 25th percentile of the historic inflows, or 62,690 acre feet. As of this morning, combined storage was a little over 1 million acre feet, and inflows to the Highland Lakes in December, as we talked about in previous slides, was 8,711 acre feet. And we've had about 6,000 acre feet to date in January of inflows. So under this inflows test, we would need to receive almost 48,000 acre feet of inflows in the rest of January and in February to avoid moving to stage 2. We've notified our firm customers via email of the possibility of entering stage 2 conditions in March. So that's a whole lot of information I just gave y'all about interruptible water and firm water. I'm going to pause here to see if y'all have any questions about any of that. No? Okay. Either I explained it really well or you knew it already. So here's our projections for Lake Travis lake levels. As of January 1st, we were at 637.96 feet mean sea level, or about 28.72 feet below the average for January. And as of this morning, we've dropped about a half a foot to 637.5, or about 29.18 feet below the average for January. Similarly, at Buchanan, as of January 1st at midnight, we were at 1,003.40 feet mean sea level, or a little over 7 feet below the average for January. And as of this morning, we were at 1,002.72 feet mean sea level, or about 7.86 feet below the average for January. And the last slide in the basin update is a comparison of combined storages from January 1st this year to January 1st of 2024. And as you can see on the bottom line of the table, we're over 210,000 acre-feet more in storage going into the calendar year this year than we were in 2024. Earlier this month, the weak La Nina that we've been talking about since the summer officially kicked in and was recognized by the Climate Prediction Center. They are stating that this La Nina is expected to be weak and short in duration. The Climate Prediction Center's precipitation outlook for the first quarter of 2025 remains pessimistic for the development of significant rain across Texas. The outlook for January and January through March shows strong odds that rainfall will average below normal. The outlook for April and May shows little trend with equal chances or above, below, or near normal rainfall. The CPC's temperature outlook for January through May shows strong odds the temperature will average above normal. Now, that's average. So I know this isn't normal we're having this week, but the average should be above normal. A little update on Arbuckle. We are nearing the third hold point, and as of this morning, we're at 103.94. Next hold point is 104 feet mean sea level, so sometime this morning we should hit that and go into the observation phase at that hold point. At that hold point, the storage will be approximately 39,890 acre feet, or 75% full. So that's a big deal. We had some rains last week in the lower basin that gave us some good opportunities to put some water into the reservoir, and so we're finally getting a little bit of inflow down there to be able to test that thing out, and we're excited about that. Do y'all have any questions for me?
No, and so far, all the tests look good. No issues to speak of other than.
So far, it's doing what it's supposed to be doing.
What normally happen in that type of nomenclature we have down there?
Yeah. The piezometer readings remain within the boundaries that our engineers have set, and our creek walks are still not showing anything beyond what we're looking for. So we continue to we ought to be able to, once we hit our hold point, approximately a week at that hold point.
Wonderful. Very good, thank you.
Yeah, the original schedule had like 2 weeks for the hold points, but they've been just going about a week if they don't see anything after that in that first week. So
I know it's been a lot of money and a lot of time to get to this point, but knock on wood. But I tell you what, given today's economy and cost, it's a bargain today. We were talking about it this morning where Mike it's a lot per acre foot, but when you don't have it and you've got it flowing down the river, but man, it'd probably be double now.
That's right.
What would you guess? Double?
I think it'd be at least 50 to 75%, if not 2x, between post-COVID infrastructure, material costs, concrete, steel, rebar, fuel. I mean, labor inputs, which are all, for us, 30% more. So yeah, I think it'd be significant. The fact we've got it done is tremendous testament, and thanks for the board's support.
Yeah, I'm on the Region P, Texas Water Development Board. I go to Edna for Elliott. So below Lake Texana, they're looking at trying to build an off-channel reservoir, and the cost that just continuing to escalate and escalate. They've been working on it for several years, just like we have, but they haven't pulled the trigger. So.
Yeah, we were very blessed that between the Water Development Board lending program at a low-cost rate, our ability to finance it, how we came up with that, put all that together, it's been a really good toolkit. And the fact that we're at this 75% full and everything looks really good, that's great to have done. And put that in the bank and go from there.
Yep, given the current state of affairs with the growth and all the challenges we have,
Check it off the list.
Yep.
Yep.
Wish we had more. That's all I'll say. Anyway.
Y'all have said that a lot.
Well,
You're right, though. I mean,
but Phil, you need to be challenged.
I get that. That's true. But in all seriousness, I think that's what this board has asked us to go do, and John and Kelly and Monica and the whole team of water and across the board in finance and everyone supporting it. And that's our next thing. We're working on it really diligently, but it's nice to have this one look like it's going to be part of the system and allows us to balance out how we dispatch and run water and how we capture it and maintain it. So I'm very excited where we are today. It's a really good place to be. Yes, sir.
Great news. John Hoffman or Kelly, who's up next? Kelly again.
Me again, yes, sir.
All right.
So our next topic is the LCRA interruptible water rates for the calendar year 2025. Last month, we discussed the proposed interruptible water rate changes for Gulf Coast, Lakeside, and Garwood Ag divisions. Water rates are set, I'll remind you, on a calendar year basis. The next few slides, I'll present the recommended rates that will be considered for adoption at tomorrow's board meeting, revisit the key issues around the 2025 interruptible water rates, and summarize the comments we received regarding proposed rate changes. For rate setting purposes, the presentation assumes full water availability in 2025, no curtailment. However, as we saw in the basin update, curtailment of Gulf Coast and Lakeside Ag divisions is likely for 2025. In the event that curtailment is seen in Gulf Coast and Lakeside in 2025, we will use the Rate Stabilization Fund to offset the lost revenue, as we've done during calendar year 23 and 24 curtailment periods. And I will tell you that since we last met with the board in December, we posted the rate proposals online for public comment. We reviewed the comments, and we've traveled down to the lower basin to discuss the proposed rates with the farmers in December. So here's a summary of the recommended rates for calendar year 2025. Overall, there's a 2 to 3% increase is being recommended. We discussed the development of these in detail in December, and I will be happy to answer any questions you might have regarding the rate design or development. In calendar year 2024, after a year and a half of curtailment, we proposed a minimal increase of rates of 2.3% for Gulf Coast and Lakeside, recognizing that the cost of running the operations were still increasing, but that no rate increase would put us further behind when operations returned. So given that we've been curtailed for 2.5 years now, we propose another 2.3% rate increase for calendar year 2025 in the curtailed divisions of Lakeside and Gulf Coast. Using this methodology, the calendar year 2025 rate is shown here in Gulf Coast and Lakeside is recommended to be $77.79 per acre foot, an increase of $1.75 or 2.3% compared to the 2024 rate. The calendar year 2025 weighted average rate in Garwood is recommended to be $44.98 per acre foot, an increase of $1.19 to cover the projected costs in that ag division. Any questions about the proposed rates? Okay. So along with the rates, there are other things that are, and fees and all that are tied to the rates that also increase when the rates increase or change when the rates change at all. And those rates are shown in this table. The table summarizes the excessive use charges for each ag division. And these charges are an additional 40, 80, or 150% of the interruptible stored water rate for those that use excessive volumes of water on a field. In addition to the rates for interruptible stored water, the bullet items at the bottom of the slide show the proposed minimum charges for contracting in the 3 divisions. The Garwood minimum charge is not changing. Additionally, staff suggests that we no longer charge the $100 application fee for rice or turf contracts. There was a fair amount of discussion at our farmer meetings on this particular item and with the customers in December, and the minimum charge for rice and turf customers more than covers the cost of this application fee. So we're going to recommend tomorrow that this fee be charged only to supplemental contracts, which typically do not have a minimum charge. Any questions on any of these fees? Okay, let's talk about interruptible rate key issues. So the first thing we'll discuss is the status of the Rate Stabilization Fund. If y'all will recall, this is used to offset lost revenues from Gulf Coast and Lakeside when they're in curtailment. The current balance of this fund is $14.6 million. And if we don't have water in 2025, we will project that to use $9.8 million to cover the lost supplemental revenue from the operations in Gulf Coast and Lakeside, leaving a balance of $4.8 million by the end of calendar year 2025. The other fund that we have down there that we use in rate making is the Ag Reserve Fund. If you'll recall, this was put in place to help limit rate shock as we grew the rates for the interruptible customers in Gulf Coast and Lakeside to their full cost recovery. The original balance was $13 million. The current balance is $6.7 million, and we projected to use $2.5 million in 2025, assuming that they're not curtailed and we're in full operation. If we stay on that plan, we would deplete the Ag Reserve Fund by the end of calendar year 28. If we are curtailed, then we won't use the Ag Reserve Fund. We will use the Rate Stabilization Fund to cover the lost revenues. And lastly, we have no proposed rule changes or drought contingency plan changes for 2025. Any questions about any of those? Okay, so let's summarize the comments. As I noted earlier, we received comments about the application fee, not free, for rice and turf contracts, and we recommend eliminating that for those contracting entities. We also received one comment letter via online submission from a member of the public, and we've given you a copy of that this morning at your tables. The commenter is opposed to the rates because they don't include dam maintenance and capital costs, and because they rely on funds that mitigate against rate shock. In response to the comments, I'd like to note that given the multiple years of cutoff in those two ag divisions, it doesn't make sense for us to try and recover capital costs using a funding source that can be curtailed or cut off. And that's the reason why we don't rely on revenue from interruptible customers to pay for those capital costs in the dam maintenance and capital area. There is a little bit of dam maintenance at Buchanan and Travis that those customers, interruptible customers, do pay for because those costs are in the river management part of our budget. And if you'll recall, interruptible customers pay a little over 20% of the river management costs. So they're paying for some of the operation of those dams, but they're not paying for that capital because we need a reliable source of funding to pay off the capital. So that's a conscious effort by us in the way we break down the cost centers and how we pay back those cost centers. That's all I have. We'll come to y'all tomorrow with an agenda item to approve the rates as shown earlier in this presentation. Do y'all have any questions for me?
Yes, I'd ask, where in the comments we're accused of illegal acts, should we say that, or have a representation that is not illegal? Accusation here, I guess it's a legal question.
And I'm sorry, I missed your question. Do you mind repeating it?
In the comments?
Yes.
It accuses us of illegal acts. And should that be addressed here? Should we say we don't think we're...
There, in response to that comment, no, I don't agree with that assertion. And there was also a question about board member recusal on the vote for tomorrow. I also, under Board Policy 106, I don't believe that recusal is necessary for any board member. The rates themselves apply broadly to any user of the agricultural water rate, and it's not specific to any particular board member, so it's not necessary under our policy or under any statutes.
Yep, we can, I guess everybody has to recuse themselves because most everybody here is firm water customers too, probably. So,
Yes.
yeah, what, you know, okay. I'll also say, I'm gonna go on my record as being a broken record, that even the day hopefully comes that we get interruptible water back, it is what it is, interruptible water. You can't bank on it, you can't count on it, I still don't know how our bankers actually go along with saying, oh, I'm gonna loan you $1 million to grow a crop, you don't know whether they're gonna have water or not, when it's said and done. The other thing is what nobody takes into consideration, the fact that the flows or releases over the dam during the river, it's not just rice farmers, turf farmers, it's all about environmental, ecological reasons. We have to maintain the health of the river itself. And those things are not ever taken into consideration when people talk about that. So the fact that we send water out, and we do have water that gets spread across the prairie, we bank that water because it's very good for the overall ecology and environmental aspects of what we're supposed to be. So it's all not about just water, as far as water, holding water back. It's about how do we take care of the basin environmentally and ecologically. So
Yeah, and I just echo everything you and Director Allen said, Chair Cooper, is that, one, we follow our water management plan per TCEQ. So there's a rule book that we work very diligently on about, we've already started the next round now in 2025. So we're following the volumes, the amounts, the release schedule, the associated levels. It begins with that. The second thing is there's a clear line where this board has been very supportive of working its way to full cost recovery over the past several years, where we have moved up year over year, where our rates were about 70% less 7 years ago they are today. And we're continuing to do that. So we'll continue to have this methodology of incrementalism that's an accepted methodology by the Public Utility Commission and rate-regulated entities that gets to full cost recovery. Also understanding we have not released any water for agriculture for those two districts in the last 2.5 years from what John and Kelly talked about. So it's a good conversation for us to continue to have, but following what TCQ tells us to do, we're focused on the environmental releases, per your point, and requirements associated with that. We have an accepted rate design for incrementalism going forward, and we're managing good stewards in the river and Gordon Basin. So I appreciate the board's commitment to the water management plan and how we run our system going forward as we do today.
you know, something that I never said, I know that it's and it has nothing to do with the current regime, but the Garwood situation, let's think about the cost, as we just talked about, the cost of building Arbuckle today versus, and what we spent, what it'd be worth today. Think about the purchase of that water that's now in the system. And they get a small minutia part of the overall whole of whatever, I forgot how many acre feet that was purchased years ago, and at that price. So
Yeah.
given today, everybody ought to back up and think about that.
Well, I think that's well said. The fact that we now have that in our portfolio to manage for the firm side that allows us to do what we're trying to do. And as you look at the growth we've talked about in Central Texas, any part of this area, when you're adding 1,200 to 1,500 people a day to our state, they feel like they're all right here. We're addressing that. And so we'll continue to do so. To your point, it's nice to have something in your portfolio that'd be much more difficult if we didn't have that going forward.
Attorney Sebastian, thank you for explanation. I just thought we should address that because
Yes, sir.
the accusation was.
Yes, sir.
That's all I've got. I will let y'all know that your favorite Bob is scheduled to be back giving us a kind of forecast for the spring and early summer next month.
He's been busy today and yesterday and all week, so I appreciate him very, very much.
Putting Bob through his paces.
Bob is working hard the last week on every part of the company, power, transmission, water, et cetera. So
tell you,
more than
his
that, we
predictions-
probably owe him extra. Yeah.
His predictions have been right on recently.
Now, don't go tell him that. He's streaming, probably going to hear it and get a big head. So, no, he's done a brilliant job, Mike.
He's done
and
a great
very much appreciate him, and he's such a valuable asset for LCRA and for the rest of the state. I mean, every year, John puts together Meteorologist Day and Kelly, and they bring in the meteorologists from around Central Texas, and Bob presents, and he's so well respected. He's so good at what he does, and he's so thoughtful. So we're really fortunate to have him as part of LCRA. Absolutely. That concludes our point, Mr. Chair.
We have no need unless you have questions.
No need for executive session.
With that, we've concluded the Water Operations Committee meeting. The time is 10:47 a.m. and we're adjourned.